First contact and devastation. The Hubble Eye Deep Space Telescope had been humanity's watchful eye for nearly 2 decades, peering into the furthest reaches of our galaxy from its position in lunar orbit. Commander Eliza Chen knew every inch of the massive installation like the back of her hand. For 7 years, she had led a rotating crew of 16 specialists aboard the telescope. Astrophysicists, engineers, and communication experts from 12 different nations. Energy signature detected in Sector 7B, announced Dr. Raj Patel, his voice carrying an unusual note of excitement. It's moving against stellar drift patterns. Commander Chen floated across the observatory deck, her eyes fixed on the anomalous reading that flickered across multiple screens. Natural phenomenon. Negative, replied Dr. Sarah O'Keefe, the Nigerian astrophysicist who specialized in celestial anomalies. The radiation pattern suggests artificial propulsion, and it's accelerating toward us. In Mission Control on Earth, Director Marcus Hamilton watched the live feed with growing concern. Humanity had been broadcasting its existence into space for over a century, but this was the first concrete evidence that someone, or something, had heard the call and decided to answer. "Get me the Secretary General," Hamilton ordered, "and activate Protocol First Contact." The object approaching the Hubble Eye wasn't simply moving. It was decelerating in a controlled manner that defied natural physics. Within 6 hours, what had initially appeared as a pinprick of light resolved into an unmistakable vessel, approximately 3 times the size of the telescope itself. Its hull was composed of interlocking hexagonal segments that seemed to pulse with internal energy. No visible windows or conventional propulsion systems were apparent. Just sleek, alien engineering that made humanity's greatest accomplishment look primitive by comparison. "We're receiving some kind of transmission," reported Communications Officer Lu Wei. "It's not matching any known format, but the pattern suggests deliberate communication." For 12 tense hours, Earth's greatest minds worked to decipher the alien message. Meanwhile, the vessel maintained its position 5 kilometers from the Hubble Eye, apparently content to wait. When the breakthrough came, it wasn't what anyone had expected. "We've partially decoded it," announced Dr. Elena Volkov, her face pale as she addressed the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. "It appears to be a biological assessment. They're cataloging us." Before anyone could process this information, the alien vessel suddenly emitted a blinding pulse of emerald energy that engulfed the Hubble Eye. The transmission from the telescope cut to static. All 16 crew members of the Hubble Eye died instantly, their bodies and the telescope itself reduced to constituent atoms that scattered into the void of space. The alien vessel then simply vanished, using some form of propulsion that human instruments couldn't even detect, let alone track. 16 lives. 16 names that would soon be etched into humanity's collective memory. 16 reasons that would forever change Earth's place in the cosmos. The attack sparked an unprecedented global response. Ancient rivalries and geopolitical tensions were set aside as humanity faced its first extraterrestrial threat. Within days, the United Nations convened an emergency session that resulted in the formation of the Terran Defense Initiative, TDI, a unified military and scientific organization tasked with defending Earth against the unknown species now designated as the Vexkai. Admiral Helena Reyes, a decorated veteran of the Pan-Asian Naval Forces, was unanimously selected to lead the TDI. Her first address to the newly formed council set the tone for humanity's response. "We have been attacked without provocation. 16 of our best minds were erased from existence without warning, without mercy. This will not stand. We will not cower in fear or hide in the shadows of our world. We will respond, and we will show these Vexkai that humanity is not to be trifled with." The next 3 years saw Earth transformed in ways that would have been unimaginable before the attack. Resources previously devoted to internal conflicts were channeled into defense and space technology. The greatest minds across every scientific discipline worked in concert with a unity of purpose never before seen in human history. Dr. Maya Takahashi, a previously obscure quantum physicist, emerged as the architect of humanity's technological leap forward. Her breakthrough in gravity manipulation, theorized but considered impossible before the attack, led to the development of the Archimedes drive, a propulsion system that bent space-time itself. The Vex-K didn't just attack our people, Takahashi explained during a rare public address. They attacked us with technology we couldn't comprehend. But now we understand, and we've improved upon it. Meanwhile, the shipyards of Earth and Mars worked tirelessly to construct the vessels that would carry humanity's response to the stars. Unlike the peacetime exploration vessels of old, these were warships, sleek, deadly, and built with a single purpose. At the heart of the fleet was the TDI Vindicator, a massive dreadnought equipped with the newly developed Nova Lance, a weapon system that could theoretically disrupt the molecular bonds of its target at the subatomic level. Admiral Rice stood on the observation deck of the lunar base, watching as the final preparations were made on the fleet that stretched out before her. 50 ships of varying sizes, crewed by the best that humanity had to offer, all volunteers who understood the gravity of their mission and the slim chances of return. Status report, she demanded of her executive officer, Commander Takeshi Yamamoto. The fleet is at 98% readiness. Admiral, Yamamoto replied. Final weapon system checks are complete on all vessels except the Defiant and the Retribution, which should be online within the hour. Rice nodded, her weathered face revealing nothing of the cold determination that had driven her every waking moment for the past 3 years. And the coordinates. Our deep space telescopes have tracked energy signatures matching the Vex-K vessel to the Epsilon Eridani system. It appears to be a staging area rather than their homeworld. Then that's where we strike first. Rice turned to face the Earth, a blue marble hanging in the void. Send the signal. Operation Vindication begins at 600. As the commanders and crew of Earth's first war fleet prepared for departure, 16 holographic images were displayed in the War Council chamber. The faces of the Hubble I crew, who had unknowingly become the catalyst for humanity's ascension to the stars. Scientists, not soldiers, who had died without understanding why. 16 lives, 16 reasons, 16 justifications for what was to come. Operation Vindication. The journey to Epsilon Eridani took 7 months, a testament to the revolutionary propulsion technology humanity had developed in just 3 years. For the crews of the 50 TDI vessels, it was 7 months of rigorous training, simulation drills, and preparation for an enemy they barely understood. Fleet Captain Diana Rodriguez of the TDI Defiant kept a personal journal throughout the voyage, her entries reflecting the mixture of determination and uncertainty that permeated the fleet. Day 147. Another round of combat simulations today. Our response times are improving, but we're essentially shooting at shadows. We have virtually no data on Vex-K weapon systems, shield technology, or combat tactics. We're building our strategy on educated guesses and the brief sensor readings captured during the attack. It's like preparing to fight a ghost. When the fleet finally arrived at Epsilon Eridani, they found not a single Vex-K vessel, but an established outpost, a massive space station orbiting the system's 4th planet, with smaller structures scattered across nearby moons. Thermal and energy readings suggest approximately 3,000 Vex-K on the main station, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson Chen, the Vindicator's sensor officer. No immediate defensive posture detected. It appears they're not expecting us. Admiral Rice studied the tactical display, her lips pressed into a thin line. The element of surprise was their greatest advantage, but she hadn't expected it to be quite this complete. Either the Vex-K were supremely confident, or they truly didn't consider humanity a threat worth monitoring. Deploy the fleet in attack formation Delta, she ordered. All vessels, weapons hot. Commence Operation Vindication. The human fleet moved with coordinated precision, forming a 3-dimensional net around the alien station. The first indication that something was wrong came when 3 smaller Vex-K vessels attempted to flee rather than engage, a response that contradicted every strategic assumption. Admiral. Commander Yamamoto's voice carried a note of confusion. We're detecting anomalous readings from the station. It appears to be a biological research facility. Before Rice could process this information, the Vex-K station suddenly emitted a broad-spectrum transmission. Unlike the cryptic message sent before the Hubble Eye attack, this one had been specifically encoded to be understood by human communication systems. The message was simple: cease hostilities. Misunderstanding. Dialogue requested. For a tense moment, the bridge of the Vindicator fell silent. Then Admiral Reyes gave the order that would define humanity's first interstellar encounter. Maintain positions. I want that message authenticated and verified. And prepare a response team. We'll hear what they have to say, but from a position of strength. The subsequent first official contact between humanity and the Vex-K revealed a truth more complex and disturbing than anyone had anticipated. The aliens who greeted the human delegation weren't conquerors or warriors. They were scientists and researchers, visibly terrified of the armada that surrounded their outpost. Through a hastily assembled translation system, the lead Vex-K researcher, designated as Observer Prime Zelnar, explained the horrifying truth. The vessel that approached your observation platform was an automated biological sampling drone. It was programmed to collect data on new species, but had a critical malfunction in its assessment protocols. It was supposed to take minimal tissue samples. Instead, it atomized your entire crew. The revelation sent shockwaves through the human fleet. The deaths that had united Earth, the attack that had pushed humanity to unprecedented technological advances, had been nothing more than a tragic accident, the equivalent of a scientific expedition's equipment failure. In the secure conference room aboard the Vindicator, Admiral Rice faced the most difficult decision of her career. "So you're telling me," she said, her voice dangerously controlled, "that 16 of our people died because your drone had a glitch?" Observer Prime Zelnar's translator conveyed his response with mechanical precision. "We deeply regret the tragedy. When we recovered the drone and discovered what had happened, we immediately recalled all similar units for recalibration. We had no way to communicate our regret directly to your species." "You could have tried," Captain Rodriguez interjected, "instead of running away." "The sampling drone was not equipped for complex communication," Zelnar explained, "and our species operates on consensus decision-making. By the time we understood what had happened and formulated a response plan, your fleet was already approaching our research outpost. For the next 72 hours, the human command staff debated their next move. Half the officers advocated for proceeding with the original plan, a devastating strike against the Vex-K that would ensure humanity's security through demonstrated strength. The other half argued that attacking a non-hostile species for what was effectively an industrial accident would make humans the aggressors they had feared the Vex-K to be. In the end, Admiral Rice made the decision alone. "We came here seeking justice for 16 lives taken without cause," she announced to the assembled fleet commanders. "But there is a difference between justice and vengeance. We will not become the monsters we feared among the stars." The negotiations that followed established the first interspecies treaty in human history. The Vex-K, a species that had evolved as collective researchers rather than conquerors, offered reparations in the form of technological knowledge and assistance. They had been studying the galaxy for millennia, cataloging species and cosmic phenomena with detached scientific interest rather than imperial ambition. 6 months later, Admiral Rice stood before the United Nations General Assembly, her formal dress uniform adorned with the newly created Stellar Service Cross. The 16 members of the Hubble Eye did not die in vain, she declared to the assembled representatives of humanity. "Their sacrifice propelled us to the stars generations ahead of our natural development. Because of them, we now stand as equals among the cosmos, not as victims or conquerors, but as explorers and innovators worthy of our place among the stars." The Terran Defense Initiative was restructured into the Terran Exploratory Division, its warships repurposed for scientific and diplomatic missions. The weapons developed in fear were adapted for peaceful purposes. The Nova Lance technology reprogrammed to dismantle space debris and asteroid threats rather than enemy vessels. Earth entered a new golden age of discovery and growth. The knowledge shared by the Vex Chi accelerated human development in medicine, energy production, and environmental restoration. Within a decade, the first human Vex Chi joint research teams were exploring the galaxy together. On the 10th anniversary of the Hubble Eye incident, a memorial was unveiled in orbit at the exact coordinates where the telescope had once operated. At its center floated 16 crystals, a Vex Chi tradition for honoring those whose deaths led to greater understanding. On the 10th anniversary of the Hubble Eye incident, a memorial was unveiled in orbit at the exact coordinates where the telescope had once operated. At its center floated 16 crystals, a Vex Chi tradition for honoring those whose deaths led to greater understanding. Commander Eliza Chen, Dr. Raj Patel, Dr. Sarah O'Keefe, Officer Lu Wei. 12 more names that had once represented humanity's greatest loss now symbolized its greatest leap forward. 16 lives that changed the course of human history not through the vengeance they inspired, but through the understanding their loss eventually brought about. 16 lives that took humanity to the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers worthy of the cosmos.